Hello again, our most valued student. My name is Confident and welcome to AgroLearn Tech's 24-minute lesson. Our lesson today will focus on equations. And under equations, we are going to look at solving equations by completing a square, as well as solving equations using the quadratic formula. And also we are going to look at the general way of solving equations. Sometimes they bring equations which involve fractions and other forms, such as the square roots. We're going to look at these. Let's start by looking at the first one, solving equations using completing a square method. Now, this is a repetition, or this is a repeat of a lesson, because there is a lesson that focuses on completing a square. But as a reminder, how do you complete a square? We said completing a square is another way that you can solve quadratic equations. Now, how do you see that something is a quadratic equation? A quadratic equation has the highest value of 2. So when you see x squared, you must know that it is a quadratic equation. So when you are given 2x squared plus 5x, when you are completing a square, the best thing is to take 1 to the other side. It will become equal to minus 1. And when you are using completing a square method to solve the quadratic equation, you must ensure that this number must become a 1. Now, how do you make that number become a 1? You divide everything, each and every item, you divide it by 2. When you divide it by 2, you are going to have x squared plus 5 over 2x is equal to minus half. Now, when you're completing a square, we say completing a square method, it means you have to say x squared plus 5 over 2x plus half times the coefficient of x. And which one is the coefficient of x? This is the coefficient of x. The actual way is to put it like that. That is the coefficient of x with its sign. But because it's a plus, I'll leave it like that as 5 over 2. I think it's good to use that pen. 5 over 2. That is the coefficient of x. And then what you do is you put everything in a square. You can remove that line. Equal to minus 1 over 2, again, plus the same thing that you do, 1 over 2 times 5 over 2 squared. That's what we mean by completing a square. When you have done that, you can simplify what is in the bracket. So what you have in the bracket, you have got x squared plus 5 over 2x plus 1 times 5 is 5 over 4 squared. Don't remove the square, is equal to minus 1 over 2 plus 5 over 4 squared. Though you can now simplify whatever is on the other side. Now, what you need to focus on then is to look at the power 2 and look at the power 2. So what are you going to write? You are going to write this x and the 5 over 4. So now it will become x. If you write it, it will become x. If I can erase that, it will become x plus 5 over 4 squared. If you take it back, is the x and 5 over 4 squared is equal to, using a calculator, you can use a calculator to find the final answer on the right hand side, which is equal to 17 over 16 after using the calculator. And then after that, what you do is you say x plus 5 over 4. Remember, this is a squared. You now put a square root is equal to what you do on the left, you also do on the right, over 16. Why am I putting a square root? Because the square root will get rid of that power 2. Then you're going to have x plus 5 over 4 is equal to plus or minus square root of 17 over 16. Now you take this 5 over 4, it jumps the sign, you are going to have x is equal to, if it jumps it becomes minus 5 over 4 plus or minus square root of 17 over 16. That is square root of 17 over 16. Therefore it means, therefore x is equal to minus 5 over 4 plus square root of 17 over 16, which is equal to, if you use a calculator, so when you use a calculator you get minus 0,217, or x is equal to minus 5 over 4 minus square root of 17 over 16. Where am I getting the plus or minus? The first one is the positive, which is that positive. The second one is the negative, which is this negative. And when you use a calculator, you're going to get x is equal to negative 2,281 in 3 decimal places. So these are the two values of x, that is completing a square. Now let us go and try the use of a quadratic formula. Before we use a quadratic formula, remember it's called quadratic because the highest power is of 2. So what is a quadratic formula? This is the formula. It says x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now where are these a, b and c coming from? They are coming from a quadratic equation which says ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So in this case, the a, the b and the c in this equation, they come from that. So if I write my original equation, it says 2x squared plus 5x plus 1 is equal to 0. If I do that, I have to identify my a, and you can see by matching, this is what I'm having. For my b, this is what I'm having. Actually, if I undo to do it the right way, you need to take the signs. This is my b and this is my c. So now my a is equal to a 2, my b is equal to a 5, my c is equal to a 1. So now I'm going to have x is equal to, if I put it now in my equation, I've got x is equal to minus 5, put 5, plus or minus, I think I won't have enough space, let me take it to the next side, which is called x is equal to minus 5 plus or minus square root of 5 squared minus 4. Again, what was my a? 2 and my c is 1. So minus 2, c is 1 all over 2a. My a, remember, my a is a 2. So now when you use a calculator, you can punch this straight in a calculator. This is the answer you're going to get. Now you're going to get x is equal to, you punch the positive one and you punch the negative one. Where is the positive and the negative? Is that you start by punching the positive, you start by punching the negative. Okay, let me do it in a slow way. You are going to have x is equal to minus 5 plus square root of that over 4. I'll use a calculator, or x is equal to minus 5 minus over 4. Now what is inside the square root sign when you use a calculator? If you use a calculator, you get that as 17. So you're going to get x is equal to, so if you use a calculator, you still get back to the previous answers that we got. Now moving again, if they say solve for x by completing a square in this kind of a scenario, again this is a repetition. So what you do, you are going to rearrange it the way you know it. Now they gave you 4x squared minus 2 equal to 5x. But this is not the way it must be arranged. You know that, of course, 4x squared must start, but the 5 is in the wrong place and the 2 must actually be on the other side. So the 2 is the one that must be this side and the 5 must be this side. So in actual fact, you must have, when it jumps the sign, 5 will become minus 5x equal to, when negative 2 jump the sign, it will become 2. Again, you will notice that there is a number 4 there. You have to divide both sides by 4. When you do that, you're going to have x squared minus 5 over 4x is equal to 1 over 2. After you have done that, when you complete a square, now I'm going to write the final version and you can look at it slowly and then you can follow up. Now quickly, if I get you through the whole process, because we have done this before, we are saying after moving from this stage, what we have is half the coefficient of x. Now I want you to be careful, is the coefficient of x now is minus 5 over 4. As you can see, that is the negative I'm talking about. So this negative is always inside. Why? Because when you finally get your square, the square, remember solving for x by completing a square, the negative is also appearing. So now look again through this particular problem. You can pause here and see how it went about, and you have got then two values of x here. I'm interested in solving for x. Using the quadratic equation in this version. Now again, when they give you 4x squared minus 2 is equal to 5x, this is not the quadratic equation formula. Remember, you must arrange it so that you have got ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, which is 4x squared. Now take 5 to the other side, you will have minus 5x minus 2 is equal to 0. So what is my a? If you look at it, in this case, my a is equal to 4, my b is equal to minus 5, and my c is equal to negative 2. So the equation says x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x is equal to minus b is minus, but b is minus 5, so it's minus 5 plus or minus square root of minus 5 squared minus 4a is a 4 and c is a negative 2 all over 2 times a, which is a 4. When you use your calculator, remember you use your calculator once, you can punch this, you're going to get x is equal to 1,569, or x is equal to, remember this is use of a calculator, and the best calculator for this particular kind of problem, as I said, is the Casio calculator, and then you are going to get on negative 0,319. This is to 3 decimal places. Now let us look at different versions of solving for x. We're done with the quadratic equation and we're done with completing a square. They might bring a question like that in the exam. It depends up to you whether you want to use a quadratic equation or completing a square. Let us look at such questions like fractions. Here they're saying solve for x. When you're given two fractions like this, you have got one fraction on the other side, the other fraction on the other side, which is x minus 1 over 2 is equal to 21 over x. You can use what we call cross multiplying. When you cross multiply, it means the top multiplies the top bottom. For example, here the x below multiplies x minus 1. I'm writing it on my left hand side because I'm finding x, which is equal to the 2 will multiply 21. When you open the bracket again, now you have got x times x is x squared minus x times 1 is x is equal to 2 times 21. You're going to get 42. Again, x squared minus x minus 42 is equal to a 0. The 42 joined the x. Now it's up to you whether you want to use the quadratic equation or you want to use the general factorizing. Remember the product and the sum method so that you can get the factors. If you use that product and sum method to get the factors, because there are factors here, you'll discover that it's much easier. It's x minus 7 and x plus 6 is equal to 0. Therefore, x minus 7 equal to 0, or x plus 6 equal to 0. So in the first one, x is equal to 7 or x is equal to minus 6. So these are different way, or you can use a quadratic equation again to solve that particular problem. Let us move on to the next one. It says solve for x. What we have here is you have fraction, but there is a number. If I can write that again, x over 2 plus 6 is equal to minus 10 over x. Now the problem here is you have a plus 6, which makes it a bit complicated. In the previous one we just cross multiplied, but you cannot cross multiply here. The reason being you have plus 6 that is involved, that makes you not be able to cross multiply. So now how do you get rid of that plus 6? Now this is what you need to do. For the first, you need to maybe add the fraction on the left hand side so that you've got a single fraction, and then you can cross multiply. When you do that, what are you going to have? You can say this is same as 6 over 1, and then you can find a single fraction. The common denominator here is a 2. 2 into 2 is a 1. 1 times x, you are going to have x plus 1 into 2 is 2. It's 2 plus 6. Multiply times 6 is equal to minus 10 over x. So what you're going to have is x plus 12 over 2 is equal to minus 10 over x. Then when you have got single fractions on each side, you do then what we refer to as cross multiplying. In cross multiplying, what do you have? We have got x multiplying the top, which is x plus 12, is equal to 2 multiplying minus 10. Again, you open the bracket, you've got x squared plus 12x is equal to negative 20. What do you have now? You have got x squared plus 12x. Take 20 on the other side of the equal sign. You'll have plus 20 equal to 0. Again, it's up to you here. Let me see whether you can use a quadratic method or a fold method here. You need two numbers. When you multiply, you get 20, and when you add, you get a 12. If you use the product and sum method, you will see that you are going to have x plus 10 and x plus 2. If you multiply 10 times 2 is 20, 10 plus 2. 10 times 2, you get 20. 10 plus 2, you get a 12. Therefore, x plus 10 equal to a 0. In other words, x is equal to minus 10. Or x plus 2 is equal to a 0. Therefore, x is equal to negative 2. I always tell you that in mathematics, you can always check your answer whether you are correct. What you do, you go take n of the values and put them in the original equation. They must balance. For example, let me test for the first one. Suppose we want to use minus 10 to test if this answer is correct. Now let me rewrite it again. We have got a scenario like this. Now remember, what is our x? We said x is minus 10. That was the first answer. X is minus 10. So you have got minus 10 over 2 plus 6 is equal to minus 10 over x again, remember, is minus 10. So I'm writing it red. These are our substituted values. Now if you continue, what is minus 10 over 2 is minus 5 plus 6 is equal to minus 10 divided by minus 10 is a 1. Minus 5 plus 6, 1 is equal to a 1. When it's balancing, it means you are correct. Now let us solve the last one for today on the fractions and see where does this one lead us. Given this problem, the first thing I want you to notice is our denominators. We have got x minus 2, we have got x plus 2, and we have got 4 minus x. But now let's study carefully 4 minus x. Now if I can write on my side 4 minus x squared actually. Now if I can rearrange it, I will have minus x squared plus 4. If I factorize negative out, I will have x squared minus 4. And this is a this is a difference of two squares where it's x squared minus, actually not 4, minus 2 squared, because 4 is 2 squared, which is negative x minus 2 and x plus 2. Now look at it, we have x minus 2 here and we have x plus 2 here, and this one actually is minus x minus 2, x plus 2. So if I rewrite it, this is what I'm going to get. So when you rewrite it, look what we have now. We have 4 over x minus 2 plus 2x minus 3 on top over negative. Now, one thing you must know is that this negative will affect this positive, making everything negative. When you incorporate that particular negative, you can see now it was a positive. Now, because of the negative, it has affected everything now. You can see now it's 4 over x minus 2 minus is no longer a plus. Now, when you work with your denominators, you can solve the left-hand side so that you've got a single fraction, and then it will allow you now to cross multiply. Now, let us look at the left-hand side of our equation, and then we'll solve it. If we look at the fraction on the left hand side again, as I said, now this is your common denominator, x minus 2, x plus 2. So what you're going to have is x minus 2 into that, you're going to have 4x plus 2 minus x, this whole thing into that, you're going to get minus 2x minus 3. Remember to put a bracket. Now when you open up the bracket on top, you will have 4x plus 8 minus 2x plus 3. You are going to have that all over. So when you open up the bracket and you expand and simplify everything, this will be your final side of your left hand side. Now if you take the left hand side now and combine it now with the right hand side, so what you're going to have, so when you combine them, so you're going to have the left hand side is equal to the right hand side. At this moment, because it's now fraction, one fraction on the other and the fraction on the other, you can cross multiply, and when you cross multiply, this is what you're going to have. So when you cross multiply, this is what you're going to have, and then after cross multiplying, you can see that x plus 2 and x plus 2 is repeating on both sides, so that you can cancel x plus 2 on either side. So what are you having? You're going to be left with 2x plus 11 is equal to 5x minus 2. And then when you solve for x, you are going to have 2x plus 11 is equal to 5x minus 10, and you can take 5x on the other side to change the sign to become minus 5x is equal to minus 10, and then the 11 will become minus 11. When you solve this, minus 3x is equal to negative 21. You put negative 3, you put negative 3, you're going to have x is equal to 7. Now, so the value of x in this case is equal to 7. You can now test your answer, which is very critical in this case. Let's test our answer to see if ever we are correct. Now, when you substitute into the original equation, the one that we started with, it will be 4 over, where there is x, now you put minus 7, and wherever there is x squared, you put 7, not minus 7, 7, where there is x, you put 7. Now, when you solve the first one, you are going to get, using your calculator, when you solve the left hand side, you're going to get 5 over 9 is equal to 5 over 9. By balancing, it means the answer is correct. So you can now mark this answer correct. Now, we have come to the end of our lesson. As I said, this particular lesson comes in different ways. But what you need to do is you need to go over it again so that you can be able to understand the way they ask questions. Thank you.